Hello students, in this video we'll talk about another group of P block, that's group 17, the halogens. That's the 17th group, and that is the elements collectively are called as the halogens. So we start with group 17. So there are elements in group 17 which start from fluorine, then chlorine, then bromine, then iodine and astatine. Astatine is basically a radioactive element of halogens, so its chemistry is not much studied. Out of all these group 17 elements, fluorine is the most reactive element and hence is also called as a super halogen. Now let's come to its their electronic configuration. So if you closely observe, this is their valence shell electronic configuration. This is their valence shell electronic configuration. So we can say that the general outer electronic configuration is ns2 np5, right? So as you see clearly from the electronic configuration, they require only one electron to attain the nearest noble gas configuration. Hence they tend to be very reactive. And out of all these halogens, the most reactive is fluorine, and hence its name is a super halogen. So as we move down the group, like from bromine, iodine and astatine, you can very well see that the valence shell electrons, they are not well protected from the nuclear charge because of the poor screening effect of D and F electrons. So this we have already discussed in detail in the 16th group. So let's come quickly to the atomic properties. So the first is the atomic and the ionic radii. So the point to note is, see, if this is the rough picture of the periodic table, so this is the last group, that is the group 18, and this is group 17. Suppose this is group 17. So as we move along a period, the size decreases. So it's almost to the end. The halogens are almost to the end. Halogens, they have the smallest atomic radii in the respective period and not the group 18 elements. We'll discuss in the 18th group. So what do we observe is, what do we learn here is that the halogens have the least atomic size. They have the smallest atomic radii in their respective periods. So if anyone asks you why it has the smallest radii, because it has greater effective nuclear charge. And if you talk about their corresponding ions, so suppose you have chloride ion and the chlorine atom, which out of them will have the highest radii? Chloride negative. So the radius of the halide ion is always greater than the corresponding halogen atom. Next we talk about the ionization enthalpy. You need to think about it. Ionization enthalpy means the energy required to remove the electron. So why would they allow the removal of the electron when they only require one electron to gain noble gas electronic configuration? So they will prefer gain of the electron and not loss of the electron. Hence halogens have very high ionization enthalpy, next only to the inert gas. So it's very correct to mention here that it is very difficult to remove the electron from the halogens. Contrary to this, if we talk about electron gain enthalpy, so they have the strong tendency, they require only one electron to attain noble gas configuration, so they would welcome that one electron very easily. So it's very well to say that they have strong tendency to accept an additional electron and have large negative electron gain enthalpy. Means whenever that electron is gained, the large amount of heat is released, which signifies that it is easy to attain one electron and attain a negative charge. But there is an exception. The electron gain enthalpy of fluorine is less negative than that of chlorine. It's similar to oxygen and sulfur. As we move from fluorine to chlorine to bromine to iodine, right, what do we observe is, in general, as we move down the group, the electron gain enthalpy becomes less negative. Means as we move down the group, it is becoming difficult to add on an electron to receive an electron. So according to this, fluorine should have the most negative electron gain enthalpy, but there is an exception to note, that electron gain enthalpy of fluorine is less negative. So this is due to very small size of fluorine, due to which incoming electron experiences interelectronic repulsions. Right, in detail we had discussed in the oxygen and sulfur case. You can refer to that. If you understood, highly appreciable. Next, we talk about electronegativity. Halogens, they will have high electronegativity. They have highly electronegative elements, and the fluorine, which is the most electronegative element, belongs to this group. Now we talk about physical properties. If you talk about all the halogens, they exist as diatomic. For example, F2, Cl2, Br2, I2, all of them exist in diatomic form. Next point to note is their melting and boiling point. So due to increase in the van der Waals forces of attraction with increase in the size of halogens, the melting and boiling point increases. So if the size of the atom increases, the melting and the boiling point also increases. So I2 is a solid, Br2 is a liquid, and F2 and Cl2 are gases. Next is their non-metallic character decreases. Why the non-metallic character decreases? Because electronegativity decreases. So electronegativity decreases, ionization enthalpy decreases down the group. I am talking about down the group. So they are moving more towards the metallic side rather than the non-metallic side, right? The next important thing to note is enthalpy of dissociation. They say that the enthalpy of dissociation decreases down the group. So what does this mean? Means it is easier to break I-I bond as compared to FF bond. This is in accordance with the concept we have discussed here. Means easier to break I-I bond than FF bond. But there is an exception. The bond dissociation enthalpy of fluorine is smaller than that of chlorine. Means the bond between chlorine and chlorine is difficult to break than the bond between fluorine and fluorine. Why? See, due to small size of fluorine, its valence electrons are nearer to each other. So they are bound to repel each other. Due to repulsion, this bond becomes weak and hence easier to break. Very important question, very important question. Pay attention to this enthalpy of dissociation. So as we move down the group, the bond dissociation enthalpy becomes lesser, but out of fluorine and chlorine, chlorine has the highest bond dissociation enthalpy. Means it is very difficult to break chlorine-chlorine bond. So if you talk about the trend, so chlorine molecule most difficult to break, then bromine, and fluorine, due to the interelectronic repulsions, the bond becomes so much weak that it moves to the third position, and hence which is the easiest to break is the I2. So I again come to the point why fluorine has the less negative. See, the size of fluorine is very small. So the valence electrons on fluorine, they are bound to repel each other. So if they repel each other, the bond will become weak and easier to break. Right, now we come to the next property, that is the color of the halogens. As we know that all the halogens are colored. So what this color arises? The color of the halogens is actually the color of this transmitted light. We know that the color which we absorb and the complementary color is transmitted. Means if you absorb red color, the red color, blue color will be transmitted. So the amount of energy required for the excitation decreases progressively from fluorine to iodine as the size of the atom increases. See, what does this mean? This means, why do we see color? When the valence electrons, they jump from lower energy level to higher energy level. So this is the lower energy level. The electron is present here. It jumps to the higher energy level by absorbing energy. If it is difficult for this electron to jump to higher level, we require higher energy. And the transmitted, when it comes back, it transmitted light, we will see. So fluorine has the smallest size. So it is difficult to excite its electron, hence we require higher excitation energy. So it will absorb violet light, but it will appear pale yellow. So complementary color we are bound to see, no? So due to very small size of fluorine, the electron from the lower energy level jumps to the higher energy level. Hence, higher amount of excitation energy is required. Hence, fluorine absorbs violet light and it appears pale yellow. Contrary to this, iodine has larger size. The electron is excited by a lower excitation energy by absorbing yellow or green light, but it appears deep violet. The complementary color is visible to us. I hope I made the point clear. So let's discuss with the help of a flow chart in the mind. Color is due to the excitation of the electron, jumping of the electron from lower energy level to higher energy level. The color of the light absorbed and the color of the light that we see, they are complementary. If the electron is difficult to excite, means a higher excitation energy is required. Hence fluorine absorbs violet light, but it appears pale yellow. On the contrary, iodine absorbs yellow and green light, that is the lower excitation energy, but it appears deep violet. I hope I made the point clear. Next thing to note is that the halogens form both ionic as well as covalent bond. The halides of the highly electropositive metals are ionic, and those of weakly electropositive metals and non-metals are covalent. Why the highly electropositive metals are ionic? Because of the electronegativity difference. Greater is the electronegativity difference. So listen to the point very carefully. Greater is the electronegativity difference between the two atoms, greater is the ionic character. Non-metals, these halogens, they are highly electronegative, and if they form the bond with highly electropositive elements, so hence the electronegativity difference will happen to be very large, and hence they will have ionic character. Right, now let's talk about the chemical properties, out of which we are to discuss the oxidation state. We all know that the -1 oxidation state is most common because they require only one electron to attain noble gas configuration. Apart from -1, the positive oxidation states possible are +1, +3, +5 and +7 are the common oxidation states. So if you see, they differ by 2 units, right? +1 to +3 2 units, +3 to +5 2 units. So this I will again come back to when we discuss about D and F block. So for now you just have to realize what are their oxidation states. So that's -1, +1, +3, +5 and +7. Fluorine cannot extend its, cannot show positive oxidation state because it is the most electronegative. it exhibits only minus. Also, fluorine has no d orbitals in its valence shell and hence cannot expand its octet. Now, if we talk about chlorine and bromine, +4 and +6 oxidation state occurs in the oxides or the oxoacids, which we will discuss in the coming topics, right? Next important topic is the oxidizing power. So before starting, let me make you realize that suppose we have fluorine. Fluorine will very easily gain one electron and will get reduced to fluorine negative. So that means from this to this, what is taking place? Reduction. So if a species undergoes reduction, that means it will act as an oxidizing agent. So this happens with all the halogens. Hence they have strong oxidizing power. So the ready acceptance of an electron is the reason for the strong oxidizing nature of the halogens. Fluorine is the strongest oxidizing halogen and it oxidizes other halide ions in the solution or even in the solid phase. Right? So if I talk about fluorine, bromine, chlorine, bromine and iodine. Fluorine will be able to reduce chlorine also, bromine also and iodine also. Chlorine will only be able to reduce bromine and iodine, and bromine will only be able to reduce iodine. So I would repeat, the halogen which is above in the group will be able to reduce all the species which are under, right? So fluorine will be able to reduce chlorine, bromine and iodine, and iodine will not be able to reduce any. So this is the point. So F2 will be able to oxidize, so fluorine is the oxidizing halogens, right? So fluorine will be able to oxidize the chloride negative ion, the bromide negative ion and the iodide negative ion. Hence fluorine will be able to oxidize. It will itself get reduced. My point was fluorine will itself get reduced. So suppose we have fluorine. Fluorine will be able to oxidize Cl negative. It will be able to oxidize bromide negative. It will be able to oxidize iodide negative. Thus itself getting reduced. My point was itself getting reduced, right? So Cl negative will be oxidized to Cl2. Br negative will be oxidized to Br2 and I negative will be oxidized to I2. But if you have Cl2 will not be able to oxidize fluoride negative. So if you have Cl2 and F negative, nothing is going to happen. Cl2 will only oxidize Br negative to Br2, I negative to I2. You getting my point? So again come to the point that the element which is above will be able to oxidize all the elements all the ions which are under it, right? So Br2 will be left with only I negative. So Br2 will only oxidize I negative. Hence we come to the conclusion that fluorine is the strongest oxidizing halogen, right? Oxidizing halogen. So that means when it oxidizes others, it itself gets reduced. But we just now discussed that so let's come to on what factors the oxidizing power of halogens depend. See, suppose we have fluorine gas, right? Fluorine gas, first it will undergo dissociation. So we require dissociation energy. It will change into Fg. Fg will gain one electron and the amount of energy released will be the electron gain enthalpy. That will be F negative gas. All the oxidizing and the reducing reactions are carried out in the aqueous solution. So here the hydration energy will be required, which is F negative aqueous. You getting my point? So F2, so what all these, so we have to go from F2 to F negative. So this total, so that means the oxidizing power depends upon sum of these energies: electron gain enthalpy, hydration enthalpy, right? So easier is the dissociation, easier is the gain, and more amount of hydration enthalpy is released, stronger oxidizing agent will be that halogen, right? So we know that the electron gain enthalpy of fluorine is less negative as compared to chlorine. These, see, जिन्ना easily F ਤੇ F ਦਾ bond ਟੁੱਟੇਗਾ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਈਜ਼ੀਲੀ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੋਨ ਗੇਨ ਹੋਊਗਾ ਫਲੋਰੀਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਤੇ ਜਿੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ એનર્ਜੀ ਰਿਲੀਜ਼ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਹਾਈਡਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਂਥੈਲਪੀ, ਉਹਨਾਂ F2 ਇੱਕ ਸਟਰੋਂਗ ਆਕਸੀਡਾਈਜ਼ਿੰਗ ਏਜੰਟ ਹੋਊਗਾ. ਬਟ ਆਪਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਕਿ ਆਲਦੋ ਇਲੈਕਟ੍ਰੋਨ ਗੇਨ ਐਂਥੈਲਪੀ ਆਫ ਫਲੋਰੀਨ ਇਜ਼ ਲੈਸ ਨੈਗੇਟਿਵ ਦੈਨ ਦੈਟ ਕੰਪੇਅਰਡ ਟੂ chlorine. Why fluorine is a stronger oxidizing agent? Means here if chlorine was present, chlorine would have accepted the electron very easily. Still fluorine is fluorine, why it's an strongest oxidizing agent. Why? Because it not only depends upon electron gain enthalpy, it also depends upon dissociation enthalpy and hydration enthalpy. So why fluorine? Because it has low bond dissociation enthalpy, it has high negative hydration enthalpy, and it is highly electronegative. So is the oxidizing power of halogens can be illustrated. So if fluorine acts with water, it gets reduced F negative, but it oxidizes O negative to O2, such a strong oxidizing. But if we have other halogens like Cl2 or Br2, they form HX but not release O2 but forms an oxo acid. It's a hypohalous acid, that's an oxo acid. Iodine is a very weak oxidizing agent. So reverse reaction is possible. I negative, H positive and O2. I negative is oxidized to O2 and O2 is reduced to H2O. This is the main difference. This is how halogens react with water. So this is very important point to note, right? So fluorine being a very strong oxidizing agent, it even oxidizes water. Other halogens being oxidized, so they do not release O2 but form oxo acid. Is it clear? So that means fluorine shows anomalous behavior. Why fluorine shows anomalous behavior? Because it has small size, it has high electronegativity, low FF bond dissociation enthalpy, and non-availability of d orbitals. All the cases that we did in oxygen, right? Next is most of the reactions of fluorine are exothermic due to small and strong bond formed by it. This is one case. Fluorine forms only one oxo acid, that is HOF. HF is a liquid due to strong hydrogen bonding. This is the anomalous behavior, and these are some of the reactions which show that fluorine shows anomalous behavior. Clear all of you? Right? Now let's talk about the chemical reactivity, how halogens react. So first is their affinity towards hydrogen. Hydrogen is also a small atom. Fluorine is also a small atom. So they will have great affinity for each other and will form a strong bond. Hydrogen is a small atom, but iodine is a very bigger atom. So they will not have stronger interaction for the two. Hence this says that affinity for hydrogen decreases from fluorine to iodine. Because why? Due to difference in their size. Due to difference in the size, right? So what is, so if F the bond is the strongest and H the I the bond is the weakest, hence it is appropriate to say that HI will lose H positive very easily and hence will be a stronger acid. HF will not lose H positive easily, hence it is the weaker acid. Is it clear? This was the affinity towards hydrogen. Next is the affinity towards oxygen. So most of the halogen oxides are unstable. If we talk about of only fluorine, fluorine forms only two types of oxides, that is OF2 and O2F2. They are weaker, hence they are fluorinating agents. Only OF2 is thermally stable. Now OF2 cannot be called as fluorine oxide, but it has to be called as oxygen fluoride, which means here oxygen bears positive. See, if you have NaCl, you call it as sodium chloride. Why do you call it as sodium chloride? Because here N is positive and Cl is negative. So the one which bears the negative charge, it gets the word ide. Similarly in OF2, why it is appropriate to call it as oxygen fluoride? Because fluorine is more electronegative. Fluorine is more electronegative than oxygen. So hence since these are unstable, so they are strong fluorinating agents, means they provide fluorine. So O2F2 oxidizes Pu to PuF6, means it provides Pu with fluorine. Now if we talk about the oxides of chlorine, bromine and iodine, so they form oxides in their oxidation states from +1 to +7. The higher oxides of halogens are stable than the lower ones. Chlorine's oxides are Cl2O, ClO2, Cl2O6, Cl2O7. They are highly reactive oxidizing agents. ClO2 is used as a bleaching agent for paper pulp, textiles and in water treatment. That's an important question in NCERT. What is the use of ClO2? See, they provide oxygen because they are unstable. Hence, they can be used as bleaching agent for paper pulp, textiles and in water treatment. Now, if we talk about bromine oxides, Br2O, BrO2 and BrO3, they are the least stable halogen oxides and they are powerful oxidizing agents. Since they are least stable, hence they are powerful oxidizing agents. If we talk about oxides of iodine, I2O4, I2O5 and I2O7, they are insoluble solids and decompose on heating. I2O5 is a good oxidizing agent and hence is used in the estimation of CO. Basically conclusion we can get here is that these oxides are unstable and wherever the oxidizing agents are required, they can serve the purpose, they can be used for that, right? Next we talk about reactivity towards metals. Obviously they are non-metals, so they will have affinity for the metals. The ionic character of the metal halide decreases, so MCl is the most ionic and Mi is the least ionic because of the electronegativity difference that we've already discussed. The halides in the higher oxidation state will be more covalent than the one in the lower. So why higher oxidation state more covalent? Higher oxidation state, they will have the affinity, the higher they will be able to polarize the anion. Fajan's rule are valid here. So if you want to get understood about the Fajan's rule, that I will discuss in the another segment. But here, what you want to know is that the halides which have more oxidation state, higher oxidation state, they are more covalent, and the one which has lower oxidation state, they are ionic basically. For example, SnCl4, PbCl4, SbCl5, UF6, they are covalent, and SnCl2, PbCl2, SbCl3, they are basically less covalent because their oxidation state is lesser. Next is very important, reactivity towards halogens. Yes, these halogens react with the other halogens to form compounds called as interhalogens compound. We have a full-fledged topic at the end, interhalogen compounds, but still we can just go through it. Interhalogens compound like X, X negative, X dash, XX3 dash, XX5 dash, this is their composition, XX7 dash, out of which X is the larger size halogen, X dash is the smaller size halogen. We discuss this in detail. Now we talk about the compounds of halogens. For the first one is the chlorine. If we talk about its preparation, it can be an HCl is treated with MnO2, Cl2 is released, or instead of HCl we can also use H2SO4 and NaCl. Treated with MnO2 you get MnCl2 and Cl2 is released, or when HCl is passed through KMnO4. This is a very important reaction from experimental point of view. It releases Cl2 and forms MnCl2. So these are the preparation, lab preparation of chlorine. And if you have to manufacture chlorine on large scale, one is the Decons process. Here the oxidation of HCl is done in the presence of copper chloride, which releases Cl2 and water. Another electrolytic process, if you electrolyze brine solution, then Cl2 will be formed at anode. Cl2 gas is released at anode. Right? Next, we talk about the properties of chlorine. It is a greenish yellow gas. It has a pungent smell, suffocating odor, and soluble in water. Its reactivity. Chlorine reacts with both metals and non-metals. In the way you can see, aluminium chloride, NaCl is formed, ferric chloride, phosphorus chloride, and S2Cl2 is formed. Reactivity towards hydrogen. Chlorine has great affinity for hydrogen. So see H2 and Cl2 they form HCl. H2S when reacts with Cl2 it displaces sulfur. It forms HCl. And if some this hydrocarbon is used, it extracts the hydrogen and carbon is released. Next important, very important point, third and fourth. If chlorine reacts with excess of ammonia, NH4Cl and N2 gas is released. And if chlorine is in excess, an explosive compound NCl3 is formed. Note it. Now, chlorine reacts differently with NaOH when it is cold and dilute and hot and concentrated. When chlorine reacts with NaOH when it is cold and dilute, it forms NaCl and NaOCl. But when it is hot and concentrated, although it forms NaCl, but here NaClO3 is formed. Right? This is NaOCl, this is NaClO3. So this is very important to note. Here chlorine is in +1 oxidation state. Here it is in +5 oxidation state. So here if it's hot and concentrated, it is oxidized to a higher oxidation state. Here it is oxidized to a lower oxidation state. Chlorine also produces constituents of the bleaching powder. So if chlorine is passed through dry slaked lime, CaOCl whole twice, CaCl2 is formed. The composition of the bleaching powder is CaOCl whole twice, CaCl2, calcium hydroxide and water is formed. Right? So now let's talk about its reaction with the hydrocarbons and unsaturated hydrocarbons. So if it is saturated hydrocarbon, means no double or triple bond, chlorine forms a substituted product, यानी कि substitution will take place, means one hydrogen will be replaced by chlorine. So CH3Cl will be formed. C2H4 is ethene. So if you have a unsaturated or a double bond, then the addition product is formed. Means here Cl gets added up. Here addition product is formed. Right? Next, very important, that is the bleaching action of chlorine, bleaching properties of chlorine. Why chlorine water acts as a good bleaching agent? See, bleaching water on standing loses its yellow color. Why? Because it reacts with water to form HCl and HOCl, hypochlorous acid. Hypochlorous acid is unstable. It decomposes to HCl and releases nascent oxygen. This nascent oxygen is responsible for bleaching properties and oxidizing properties. It bleaches a colored substance into colorless, right? So the bleaching action of Cl2 is permanent. Like SO2 was, the bleaching action of SO2 was temporary, but here the bleaching action of Cl2 is permanent. Very important to note. Next is the oxidizing action of Cl2. So in the oxidizing action of Cl2, Cl2 oxidizes Fe2 positive to Fe3 positive. It oxidizes SO3 2 negative to SO4 2 negative. It oxidizes SO2 to SO4 2 negative. It oxidizes I2 to HiO3. You can very well see it by the oxidation states. I leave it on you people. Quickly give a look to the uses of Cl2. Bleaching in bleaching wood pulp, cotton and textiles, in the extraction of gold and platinum, in the manufacture of dyes, drugs and organic compounds like CCl4, chloroform, CHCl3, DDT, refrigerants, etc. In sterilizing water and in the preparation of poisonous gases like phosgene, tear gas, aansu gole like CCl3NO2 and mustard gas. So you need to learn their composition because you can be asked any two poisonous gases produced from chlorine with their chemical composition. So this was all about chlorine. The next compound of chlorine is hydrogen chloride, HCl. So its lab preparation can be done by reacting NaCl with H2SO4, NaHSO4 and HCl is produced. NaHSO4 on further reaction with NaCl and temperature, if increased, it forms Na2SO4 and HCl. HCl gas can be dried by passing through concentrated H2SO4. Why? Because H2SO4 is a strong dehydrating agent. Okay, now let's talk about their properties. It ionizes in water. It is an acid, so it releases H positive and forms hydronium ion with Ka 10 raised to power 7. So it's quite a higher dissociation constant, which tells that it is a strong acid in water. Its reaction with NH3, whenever HCl is passed through NH3, white fumes of NH4Cl are released. So very important thing, it's an observation. HCl also forms the part of a composition that is called as the aqua regia. Aqua regia has 3 parts of HCl and 1 part of HNO3. Why it is important? Because it is used for dissolving noble metals like gold and platinum. How they react? This is given in these reactions. Au is oxidized to AuCl4 negative. NO3O negative is changed to NO. PT is oxidized to PtCl6 2 negative and NO3O negative is changed to NO. So you have to learn these reactions. Next important thing to note is HCl decomposes salts or weaker acids. So if you use Na2CO3 with HCl, you will get NaCl, carbon dioxide and H2O will be released. Similarly, NaHCO3 plus HCl, again water and carbon dioxide are released. Na2SO3 plus HCl, what will you get? NaCl, water and SO2. Now one thing to note is another important. So a question is, when HCl is passed through iron, it only forms ferrous chloride and not ferric chloride. Means Fe2 positive is formed and not Fe3 positive. Why? This is because this H2 gas is released. H2 gas released prevents, H2 is an reducing agent. It prevents the oxidation of Fe2 positive to Fe3 positive. Therefore, FeCl3 is not formed. I hope I made it clear. Right? So this is the whole, it was whole about HCl. Next, if we talk about another, they are the oxo acids of halogens. Like we had done oxo acids of sulfur, where H2SO4, H2SO3, H2SO5 were discussed. Now we talk about oxo acids of halogens. So fluorine forms only one oxo acid, that is HOF, known as hypofluorous or fluoric acid, in which fluorine has +1 oxidation state. Chlorine, bromine, iodine forms 4 series of oxo acids like HXO, that is hypohalous, HXO2 halic 3 acid or simply halous acid, HXO3 in which X has +5 oxidation state or halic acid, HXO4 has +7 oxidation state, also called as perhalic acid. If we talk about these oxo acids of chlorine, hypochlorous acid, here chlorine has +1 oxidation state, here it has +3 oxidation state, +5 and +7 oxidation state. Hypochlorous, chlorous, chloric and perchloric acid. So if you're talking about acids, obviously we have to talk about the oxo acids of their acidic strength. The most acidic among these oxo acids is the HClO4, least is the HClO. Now what we have to see, in HClO4, in HClO3, in HClO2, in HClO, here chlorine is in +1 oxidation state, here chlorine is in +3, here it is in here it is in +5, here it is in +3, has it in +1. So as we move from this to this, oxidation number increases. Greater the oxidation number, stronger is the acid, right? Stronger is the acid. Moreover, on losing H positive, what this will form? ClO4 negative, it will form ClO3 negative, it will form ClO2 negative, and it forms ClO negative. These are all what? They are the conjugate bases. So ClO4 negative is more stable, it is the most stable, and this is the least stable. So what you need to observe is this loses H positive very quickly and is a stronger acid because it is going to form a most stable conjugate base. Why it is? Because it is more resonance stabilized, right? It is least resonance stabilized. You can learn either of the factors, either. So greater the oxidation state, stronger is the acid, least is the oxidation state, weaker is the acid, right? So this we had completed about the halogens. Now the last topic of these halogens are the interhalogen compounds. When one halogen combines with the other halogen, it forms interhalogen compounds. Their chemical composition is XX negative, X dash, XX3 dash, XX5, XX dash 5, XX dash 7. Here X has larger size, X has larger size and is less electronegative, X dash has smaller size and is more electronegative, right? As the ratio between the radii of X and X dash increases, the number of atoms per molecule also increases. So that means see, I is the largest size, F is the smallest. So their energy size difference is much, hence IF7 can exist, right? But ClF7 does not exist because Cl and F, they have no large difference in their size. How interhalogen compounds are prepared? They can be prepared by direct combination or by action of halogen or other lower interhalogen compounds. Cl2F2 forms ClF if they have equal volumes. Cl2 3F2 will form ClF3. I2Cl2 will form ICl. I2 plus 3Cl2 gives ICl3. Br2F2 will give BrF3, Br2F2 will give BrF5. So this is how the interhalogen compounds are prepared. So XX dash, XX3 dash, so these are the examples: ClF, BrF, IF, BrCl, ICl, IBr. XX3 dash, ClF3, BrF3, IF3, ICl3. XX5 dash, IF5, BrF5, ClF5. XX-7, IF7. So all of these compounds are covalent, they are diamagnetic, they are either volatile solids or liquids, except ClF, which is a gas, right? Their physical properties, they are intermediate between the constituent halogens. The melting and boiling point are a little higher. Why they are higher? Because they have greater electronegativity difference. So there is some ionic character. Is it clear? Last we talk about the chemical properties. Interhalogen compounds, they are more reactive. Very important question. Interhalogen compounds are more reactive than the other halogens. This is because the XX dash bond in interhalogens is weaker than XX. For example, ICl is more reactive than I2 or Cl2. Why? Because the bond between ICl is weaker than II, because there is electronegativity difference. Next thing to note is their reaction with water. When on hydrolysis, XX dash reacts. Suppose we have ClF. If it reacts with water, which is more electronegative, will form simple hydrogen halide. So this is the hydrogen halide and this is Hallus acid, hypohallus acid, hypohallus acid. So it will form HOCl. If we have BrF3 plus water, it is understood कि जेड़ा more electronegative है, that will form the hydrogen halide and the other will form the Hallus acid, right? So if we have, now suppose we have BrF5 plus water, it will form, yes, HF plus HbRO3. So this was bromous acid. This is bromic acid. So now if IF7 reacts with water, it is understood it will form HF plus HbRO4. HiO4. So it is what? Periodic acid. Clear? So this is how, so their oxidation state has to remain same. Here F was -1, here also it is -1. Here F is +7, here also it is +7. So the oxidation state has to remain same. Similarly here F it was -1, it was +5. Here -1, +5. So this goes on. So this is how the hydrolysis of interhalogen compounds takes place. So this was all about group 17 and interhalogen compounds. I hope I made the points very clear to you. In the next video, we'll talk about group 18. So, thank you.